In the 1700s, Bridgwater was making an absolute fortune from the slave trade.
A business built on misery, sugar, and really aggressive handwriting. While the rest of the country was counting profits, Bridgwater, a small Somerset town better known for Carnival, bricks and rebellion, decided to say something.
In 1785, Bridgwater became the first town in Britain to officially petition Parliament to end the transatlantic slave trade. A move that was brave, bold, and extremely unpopular with anyone making money from the suffering of others.
This is the story of how one town quietly threw a very polite brick into a very lucrative machine. Bridgwater. You've probably driven through it. Most people only know Bridgwater as that place you pass through on the way to somewhere betterer. But stop and see for yourself, and you'll find a town bursting with hidden gems. Architecture, rebellion, naval legends, even a carnival that could wake the dead. It's a town of firsts and lasts and things we're still not sure ever existed, like the historic treacle mines at Dumble. Welcome to Bridgwater, but don't tell too many people about it, because the roads are busy enough already. Let's paint a picture. It's 1785. Britain is basically running an international horror business. Ships leave ports like Bristol loaded with cheap goods. They head to Africa, trade for enslaved people, sail them across the Atlantic in appalling conditions, then bring back sugar, rum, and enough profit to make any moral dilemma vanish into the fog.
This is known as the triangular trade, although morally it's less of a triangle and more of a flaming pentagram.
Most towns just accepted it. Some actively profited, but not Bridgwater. Despite being a former port town with ties to maritime trade, Bridgwater's residents did something wildly unexpected. They put pen to paper and said, "This isn't right." On the 2nd of May 1785, Bridgwater sent a petition to Parliament. It was signed by hundreds of townspeople, about 1,000 names, which was most of Bridgwater, plus a few who probably signed twice, just to be sure. They called slavery an affront to liberty and asked Parliament to stop supporting it. Bridgwater was early to the fight, probably because, as a town, they're quite skilled at rebellion. This is a place that backs lost causes with enthusiasm and sometimes fireworks. They were standing up against slavery years before William Wilberforce turned up and made it fashionable, before most people were even saying the word abolition out loud. Bridgwater didn't wait for a national movement. They went to a local shop, brought some crayons and a pad of paper and started a petition and said, "This is wrong." But why?
Why this town? At that time? That's the next bit.
The petition wasn't sent by some anonymous bloke. Real people wrote it, including Bridgwater's mayor at the time, William Tucket, and a man named John Chubb, an artist, businessman and Quaker with a solid line and moral backbone and possibly excellent penmanship.
A fun fact for you. Tucket had made money in the West Indies. Yes, the same West Indies that was deeply tied to the slave trade.
But instead of quietly sitting on his profits, he made a U-turn. And not just any U-turn, a U-turn that was faster than a sheep in a country lane. 1 minute, business as usual, next minute signing the petition to end it all. Proof that people can change, especially when the town's watching, or when there's a sheep in the road. Then there's George White, a clergyman who preached against slavery at a time when a lot of churches were either politely ignoring it or quietly investing in it. Together, they rallied a town known for its rebellious streak. This is, after all, the same Bridgwater that backed Monmouth against the king and later welcomed squibbing, an activity best described as setting fire to stuff, but politely. The petition went to Parliament via the local MPs, who handed it over and said, "Here's what Bridgwater thinks." Parliament responded by doing nothing. They ordered it to lie on the table, which sounds polite, but is basically code for ignore this until it goes away.
Still, it was the first of its kind, and it sparked something bigger.
The 1785 Bridgwater petition didn't end slavery, it didn't even slow it down, but it did something arguably more powerful. It started the official public resistance. In a system where silence was profitable, Bridgwater broke the silence in the way only a town like Bridgwater could. Like a silent but deadly fart in a quiet room. Unexpected, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. At the very least, it got people coughing and then started a movement. Other towns followed. More petitions came in. Campaigners like Granville Sharp, Olaudah Equiano and Thomas Clarkson gathered support, building the pressure that would eventually lead to the abolition of the Slave Trade Act in 1807. But Bridgwater was first. And being first matters. Ask Neil Armstrong. Or the person who first said, "You know what, I don't think we should be selling people." And let's be honest, it was an unpopular opinion in 1785. people didn't want to hear it. They wanted sugar in their tea and money in their pockets. Bridgwater stood up and said, "We're not okay with this," which is brave when everyone else is pretending it's fine. Today, Bridgwater doesn't make much noise about it, just the occasional nod by local historians giving talks, but there should be more, because this was a town that punched above its weight, and on this occasion they did it with paper, not pitchforks and fists. And in a very polite and British 1785, that's how you start a revolution, with very strongly worded letter.
Bridgwater's always had a thing for rebellion. Maybe it's the river, maybe it's the bricks, or maybe it's just the way the wind blows in off the Quantocks.
But time and again this town has found itself doing what others won't even when it's inconvenient, even if it's unpopular. In 1785 it spoke out for people thousands of miles away, people it had never met, people whose voices had been silenced by force, and it said, enough. Not everyone listened, but some did, and that helped change the course of British history, quietly, bravely, and in ink.
Today, that spirit still lives here in Bridgwater, in the Carnival, in the people, and if you look hard enough, you might even find a small plaque that commemorates Bridgwater's stand.
So next time you hear someone say Bridgwater's just a town you drive through, tell them it's the first place in Britain that stood up against slavery, and then point vaguely, Admiral Blake style, towards the plaque. If you like this story, give the video a thumbs up, drop a comment and subscribe to Sedgemoor FM for more weird, wonderful and occasionally world-changing stories, all hiding in plain sight.